Adesh, Namaste. Welcome back to the Untitled Tantra YouTube channel. Today I'm going to answer a request by one of our subscribers. And the request is to give a talk on the importance and the role of Kalima in Tantra. Kalima holds a predominant place of importance in Tantra. She is known as the Maha Adi Parashakti, the great, the first, the primordial, the foundational, the all-power of the universe. So therefore she holds a very, very important place in Tantra. She is the dynamism of and non-distinct from Brahman, the ineffable one, the absolute. She is the power, the dynamism of Brahman itself. She's the power behind all forces of the universe. In Hindu Dharma, the gods represents consciousness, universal consciousness, while the goddesses, often paired with the gods, their feminine counterparts, so to speak, are the powers behind those universal states of consciousness. And Kali is the power behind all powers. Therefore, she's a Shakti of all power of all the gods combined. That's the status that Kalima has in essence. Kali is a power inherent in evolution, whether of the universe which is constantly expanding and which will eventually collapse upon itself, which in Hindu Dharma we call pralaya, the absorption back into the source. The expanding power of the evolution of the universe, together with the collapse upon itself of the universe, is all Kalima's power. She's also the power behind the evolution of a species. In order for Brahman to express and to get to know more of its own self, resulting in pure self-awareness, awareness of awareness itself, which can only be established in the human form, the apogee of evolution within a human being is absolute and total self-awareness. And of course, she's the power behind the evolution of self, condensed within our energy body, within our subtle body, as a power of Kundalini Shakti, which when awakened, risen and united with consciousness itself, brings about illumination, enlightenment, self-realization, cosmic realization, God realization. Kali is also the womb of the universe. The whole concept of matter, time, energy, life itself is contained within her womb, the womb of the universe, the matrix itself. That's also an expression of Kalima. When we look at the word Kali itself, its root in Sanskrit as Kala, meaning time. So once something is manifested in space as an object and identified through name that is said to bring into existence, it is tied into the concept of time. There need to be space and time in order for the world of Nara-Rupa, or name and form, to exist and to express. So Kali represents Kala, or time. So when we surrender to Kali, we have the opportunity to go beyond time into eternity itself. And when we surrender to Kali, to transcend time and to touch eternity, then we become free. We experience moksha, liberation, kaivalya. Kali, therefore, has a connection to the concept of sacrifice. Because not only are we sacrificing our limitations in order for Kali to sever them, which is an integral part of the ego, but life is made of time. Therefore, life is sacrificed through and by time. This is why wasting time is actually spiritual suicide. Because time, and therefore expression in this body, in this embodiment, is constrained by time. So there's two essential components of our expression, which is of the utmost importance. And that's our energy, our capacity to express in our thoughts, in our feelings, in our emotions, in our creativity, of how those thoughts, visions, emotions, feelings are expressed. The capacity to give back, to bring beauty in this life, to make a difference in this life, is directly proportional to the latent energy that we have available. And the other currency that we have to express that energy is time. So two most valuable currencies in embodiment is energy and time, and how we express these moment to moment. The greatest opportunity that's given to us to express life itself. So the act of birth is an act of sacrifice, where the eternal, known as Brahman, sacrifices itself through form, through adopting distinguishing features and making itself locked in time. So sacrificing its universal aspect to become the individual expression, here and now. That's why Kali is linked to sacrifice. That's the role she plays there. Because you see, she incubates life, she incubates the universe, She gives birth to the universe. She gives birth to life. And that's all linked into a timeline. She's a dynamism behind Brahman, within Brahman, for expression. For expression to provide diversity, of expression as an individual expression, individual manifestation of the ineffable, the inexpressible. So Kalima also sacrifices our limitations, our negativity, and it's often described in the Puranas as the demise of demons, where she slay demons. And of course this is symbolic of our biggest demons being inside ourselves, our own darkness. That's what she removes ultimately, our own darkness, which often weighs heavily in our heart. She's therefore the remover of ego, everything that stands in the way of us expressing our divine nature. The limitations in our thinking, in our feelings, the limitations in our visioning, especially when we relate to ourselves and to others solely as a body and a mind, not realizing that these are temples, individual temples for the universal to express itself. That grand display of apparent diversity. Underneath that apparent diversity is unity. One Brahman. Ek Brahman. Sat Chit Ekam Brahma. Sat Chit Ekam Brahma. Kali also subdues the negative effect of the macrocosm. For example, in regards to the planetary situations, particularly with Shani. Okay, Saturn as a planet. So she subdues the malefic effect of Shani, which represents our karmas that bears heavily on us. Once we become devotees of Kali, she removes those malefic effects from us. So she removes the negativity within us as well as the karmic effects at a cosmic level, at a planetary level. And Kali accepts all offerings from us, because Kali is not limited to narrow concepts of purity. Now we know in a Vedic sense there are many prescriptions, many guidelines for purity in how we act, what we eat, how to carry out certain tasks, worship, typically only performed by Brahmins, who are supposed to be embodiment of purity due to following the Vedic injunctions. There's no such needs when one is a devotee of Kali. Because remember, Tantra is about weaving consciousness within all of our activities. And Tantra does not ask of us to be anybody different than what we are. It accepts us fully as we are, here and now, because it comes with a premise that we are all individual embodiments of the divine, having its lila through us. Yeah? So ultimately, it's not about us, it's about the divine working through us. So therefore, if our intentions and our hearts are pure, everything becomes pure. All of our actions becomes pure. So it does not matter what we do for a living. It does not matter what we offer to Kalima at the altar, as long as it's offered with pure intention and with a pure heart. Doesn't matter what our diet is, whether it's veg or non-veg, as long as we offer our food with pure heart to Kalima. As long as we pray for whatever we eat to become more conscious of Kalima. That we feed ourselves to keep the body alive and the mind active in the service of Kalima. So if our thoughts, if our hearts are pure, then everything becomes pure. Kalima embodies the raw force of Eros and Thanatos. You could say these are the two most hypnotizing forces of Maya, and Maya being the illusory force of Devi herself, of the goddess herself. Eros is a lust for life, not just lust in a sexual sense, but the lust for life. It can come through various artistic expressions also, through painting, writing, poetry, through the way we carry ourselves, through how we talk, how we go about our daily life. That Eros will actually express itself through us as life itself in its full splendor. And Thanatos is the illusion of death. Only the physical body dies. Only certain aspects of the mind dies. Our narrow entity or our narrow identity that we make of ourselves as father, son, mother, daughter, certain status that we may have, etc. All these are temporary identities. And these will disappear with physical death, together with the body and certain aspects of the mind. But every day we encounter death when we go to sleep. We die to the day in order to be renewed during the night and have a new birth tomorrow as a new day, a new opportunity. There's various expressions of death in our life, day to day. When we lose money, when we lose somebody, when we lose a friendship, when we separate from a love relationship, a divorce, etc. These are all concepts of death that we experience throughout life. So Ma embodies both the generation, the fertility, the generation of life, the expression of life in all its splendor, and also its degradation and its disappearance through death. So sometimes Ma's imagery is depicted in the smashan, in the cemetery, where actually she copulates on top of Shiva. And there's many tantric imagery in that regard, where the cremation ground and raw carnal expression is depicted simultaneously, expressing the concept of eros and thanatos. Now what takes birth through sexual congress and is given a birth certificate, who at the end of its own existence, that actual life will die. So from womb to sperm, from womb to tomb, from a birth certificate at birth to a death certificate at death. And what animates life in between is the power of Shakti, the power of life itself, Kalima, all the way through, from the erotic drive that drives people to unite together in sexual congress, to give birth, and then to sustain life, the energy of life itself, and the lust to keep alive, to stay alive, and to thrive even, to the demise and the disappearance of life called death. Issuing from a womb and going back to the great darkness womb of death, in order to go to the light, beyond or once again through taking another birth through the womb. From womb to tomb to womb, or from womb to tomb to the great light. So in order never to experience death, one must never take birth, for example. And yet birth is one of the greatest opportunities for expression, for self-actualization, for self-realization. There cannot be self-realization without birth. So, incarnating here on this planet, on earth, it is a school. And we know we graduate from this school, one becomes self-realized. We realize the self within. We can only know that we are gods by taking birth in the limited form, with the limitations of a human being. Through those constraints we can break free and objectively know that we are gods. And the energy of Ma, in all part of the process, provides this. Yeah? So, hence the Bija mantra of Kali being Krim. Krim energizes prana. Prana is a life force which allows all things to express itself. And that is what creates or gives the power for the heart to beat. Boom, 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 boom. This is expression of energization of prana at an individual level through the individual body-mind temple is the heart. And the heart being symbolic of a meeting in earth and heaven, of a within with below. Within to without, as above so below, is the heart. Therefore, Kali is meditated upon in the heart, in the cave of the heart, specifically the Ripadma, the lotus of the heart. This is the sanctum sanctorum for the tantrics. There's no better temple than the human body. The external temple that some people go to pray to deities is secondary. This is for people who haven't fathomed yet that their body is a temple of the divine where the divinity resides. There's still people who need the external props, so to speak. The divinity resides inside self. It is everywhere, but the closest proximity to us is within, not without. It is within. And every heartbeat, every breath where we take in obviously prana keeps the temple alive. Every breath actually contributes to the heart beating. Therefore you could say every breath is a gift from Kalima. Every heartbeat is us vibrating our temple, acknowledging, whether we are conscious or not for our mind, our temple acknowledging the presence of Kalima. This is true mysticism. The mystery school is right here, right now. It is called the body. It is called the universe. It is called the heart. And therefore, as a Divine Mother, where we have come from, where the universe has come from, when we come to that realization and we become devotees of Kalima, she fulfills all the wishes of her devotees. She knows what we are of need of before we even come to realize it ourselves. Because we live within her womb. We are all children of Kalima. And by being devotees, through our devotion, we connect to that directly. We become a living expression of a Divine Mother. And then miracles can start happening. All this because we have realized, we have woken up to that fact, and we voluntarily surrender to that. And through that acknowledgement and through that celebration of that, life becomes magical in the truest sense of the word. Kalima is a living reality to the tantrics. From the very heartbeat, from the very breath, from everything that the senses are able to perceive, the whole universe and beyond. Kalima is a living reality. So in finishing, in encapsulating what I've just talked about, in conclusion, Kalima is the power of the creative process. She's the power of time. She's the power of destruction, dissolution, and death. At the same time, with the power of immortality of the Atman, of the Purusha. She's the power of eternity and of unconditional love. Once the Jiva, the individual soul, surrenders to the Param Atma, that is Kali. That is the very dynamism of the Absolute, the one without the second, the ineffable one. She's that very power of expression of that one, without beginning or end, which we are an integral part of. That's what to the Tantric Kalima is. That is the importance that she holds and all the roles that she has in Tantra. Jai Ma.